Hey listeners, last year was our 15th year of the best in food storytelling. As we head into 2025, we're kicking off a contest in collaboration with the podcast series Feast and Harmony and Sixth Man, where you have the opportunity to win a 4-night cruise for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, a food, wine, and spirits festival at sea. When you donate to HRN, you'll be entered for the chance to win a porthole cabin for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, sailing May 5th through 9th, 2025, from Miami to Cozumel, Mexico on Norwegian Gem. You'll also support another year of great food storytelling with a portion of your donation going toward disaster relief for the food and beverage communities within Western North Carolina and Southern California. This cruise is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for culinary adventurers, featuring top celebrity chefs including Jonathan Waxman, Antonio Lafaso, Robert Irvine, and many, many more. There's a myriad of experiences such as restaurant takeovers, live food and mixology demos, themed parties, and more. To enter your chance to win, please visit heritageradionetwork.org/cruise. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or over to enter. That's heritageradionetwork.org/cruise.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. Wisconsin, the state of cheese, makes half of the nation's specialty cheese and wins more awards than any other state or country. Our heritage and traditions, master cheesemaker program, and the American propensity for innovation all put Wisconsin on the cutting edge of cheesemaking. With over 600 varieties of cheese to choose from and 5,500 national and international awards and counting, get ready to turn your refrigerator into a trophy case. Enjoying a Wisconsin cheese is basically like winning a gold medal in culinary achievement. Set your mind at cheese. When you bite into a wedge of Wisconsin Wonderful, you know it is made with the ultimate skill and passion possible. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Hey, welcome to Beer Sessions Radio on Heritage Radio Network. I'm Jimmy Carboni, and it's February 10th, Monday, 2025. We are live at Eckhart Beer Company. Pre-opening, I have a feeling this is a great way to get ready for New York City Beer Week. Long-awaited brewery, good buddy Nick Meyer and his whole team, and I'm here. It's kind of like a hard hat party, but I'm really looking forward to tasting their beers, and you guys will be looking forward to coming here, I'm sure, when it's open. So let's go around the room and introduce each other. First, don't forget, support us, heritageradionetwork.org. So we'll go around the room. We'll just start from left to right.
I am Fred Meyer. I am the chef at Eckhart Beer.
Nick Meyer, owner, Eckhart Beer.
He's smiling.
Adam Wolf, head brewer at Eckhart Beer.
Rachel Wood, taproom manager at Eckhart.
Justin Sirois, operations manager at Eckhart.
And I'm Courtney Eisman, a journalist covering craft beer. I do not work at Eckhart, but I already like it here.
Well, Courtney, I was thrilled to have the chance to get you out. You know, we're not really recording in the studio at Roberta's right now, but I'm trying to do as many on-site recordings as I can, as well as the online recordings. So I've been wanting to come and see Nick and taste some of the Eckhart beers. You know, what do you think of it? What are your first impressions so far? Have you tried any of the beers yet?
I haven't. I've seen them on a few places, but yeah, I wanted to save it because I knew this was coming up and I thought this would be like a really fun time to try it.
I mean, I'm the same way. This will be my first time trying Eckhart beer, and I'm glad that you're with us. And I knew you last year. You used to write for some things like Good Word. Tell me all the places you wrote for, because I can't remember.
Good
so
Beer
many of these
Hunting,
places don't publish anymore.
That was what we talked about. But yeah, Punch, Craft Beer and Brewing, craftbeer.com, Food and Wine, Men's Journal, freelance. So anyone who will let me talk about beer. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. All right, Nick, you gave us the intro. So, you know, I met you years ago. You were teaching at French Culinary Institute. You were talking about doing, tell us what you were talking about originally. You wanted to do a beer class for culinary students?
Yeah, that was back And when I had initially sort of gotten into the craft beer in the previous iteration of when I think they were calling it microbreweries. Cheers. And when I was at FCI, we were teaching wine as a beverage to go with food, and I had already gotten into beer. And so we were attempting, myself and another chef, to get a beer and food pairing segment to that curriculum there, and developed the curriculum and did it for a few classes. It didn't end up taking off, but that was sort of the beginning of my interest in craft beer. And
that's when we met.
Yeah.
And there was so much has happened since then, but it's great to know that you really followed through with this. And I talked to you last year as well. I knew this was coming, so I'm really thrilled to be here. So final steps. I mean, last time I saw you had the space, you were kind of getting started. What should we look forward to? I mean, first of all, coming in here, it looks like you got low ceilings. Looks like there's going to be a nice tasting room. So it's a consumer experience, something to look forward to. Tell us what the consumer experience is going to be like when they come into the tasting room. And Rachel, you can join in too.
Yeah, I wanted to have something that was a little different from sort of what people's expectations were going into most craft breweries. And I think, especially in New York, it's a pretty crowded market. And, to just jump in without differentiating yourself is pretty tough. And I wanted to have, especially coming from the restaurant business and like sort of feeling like the room and the feel of the room was how important that is to the experience. I wanted to build something out that felt a little different. So we talked with the designers, and one of the things I really wanted to do, and they agreed with, luckily, it was break up the space into a few smaller spaces. So we have a front area. We're opening up the wall, putting windows in. That'll be sort of double height ceilings. We're calling that the beer garden area, a sort of looser, less formal sort of setting. And now we're standing in the area we're calling the tavern, which is underneath our mezzanine. So it's got a lower ceiling, booth seating here. We'll see how things go, whether we're going to be either seating people or letting them seat themselves. Probably when it gets crowded, we'll seat people. And then in the back of the space, it's double height again. And then that's sort of the main bar area. And we have, as a big feature, 3 overhead serving tanks, sort of a la like a Czech style tank pub.
Looks like some boats.
Yeah, we got a radius bar there, and we will be pouring beers out of those tanks as well. And then there's a little window, not too big, but a little window back into the brewery so you can see the equipment back there. And then we have above us is a mezzanine area, which right now will be a flex space that we'll be doing events.
Wow. Well, I know you've put a lot of effort into putting together a great team, and the beer that's in the glass to me, it tastes really good. What do you think of it's the Hellas? What do you think of it, Courtney?
I'm obsessed already. It's really nice. It's so crisp but like rounded at the same time. It's a really nice, like full grain flavor. But as a Hellas, it's like so perfectly light. It's the most refreshing.
So what are the model of this beer, the inspiration? I mean,
yeah.
You tell us, Nick, and then I want to hear from Adam, and I want to listen to hear more about each of your staff members too. So
yeah, I'll just sort of do a general introduction about what we're doing. We are brewing essentially traditional European lager styles as they would taste in Europe is sort of our intent. So we'll be tasting our four of our cores: the Helles, the German style Pils, the Czech style Amber, and the Czech style dark lager. And we'll have a Czech style pale lager as a 5th core that's not quite ready yet. And yeah, I want Adam and Justin to talk about sort of what they aim to do with these beers. But the general thing was, let's try and really do an authentic version of these styles.
So tell us about the beer, Adam.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, this is a Munich style Helles. And yeah, I feel like you nailed it on the head. Like we really wanted it to be quite malt expressive. That's what this style is. Malt is kind of the king in this beer. And so yeah, we're using an heirloom Beer Co malt from Weyermann, and we just really love the expression that we get from that malt in this beer. And I feel like it's really the hero here. As Nick said, like the idea is to really go restrained and very European and traditional, but at the same time, still expressive and vibrant. We're very, ingredients are crucial. Lagers, there's not much to hide behind. So we want all of our ingredients being super sharp and being profiles that we're really happy with. And I feel like, this Helles really expresses that malt profile well.
Adam, you mentioned that you had worked in Europe as a brewer.
Yeah, that's correct. So actually, I just got back to New York about roughly 6-7 months ago now. So I've been abroad for almost 10 years. So yeah, I was in Amsterdam for 4, brewing there. And then I was in Australia in Sydney for 6 years, also brewing there as well.
Where did you brew in Europe?
So in Amsterdam, I was at a brewery called Two Chefs, and then also a smaller kind of brew pub / production focused brewery called Troost.
Courtney, have you been to Troost?
I have been to Troost on my honeymoon, actually.
Oh, nice.
What's it like there?
It's really like, as I remember it, because it's been a long time, so you'll tell me if I'm wrong, but it's really like warm, inviting, kind of like a restaurant-y vibe, like nice seating. But yeah, the beer was great. I don't remember everything I had at this point, but yeah, lovely place.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
So good credentials?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it is. It's in a really beautiful, it's called Vester Park, and it's at Vestergas is the kind of building that it's in, and it's super old brick building, and yeah, it's quite stunning. It's a cool little venue.
Wow. You got some good pedigree, Nick. And then Justin, so your operations, how is that different from the brewer?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't do what Adam does, but no, I help keep the wheels turning, all the little things between just making sure, we're ready to just rock and roll. So day-to-day management of the facility, keeping ahead of things.
Sanitation?
Yeah. Lots of sanitation.
What's your
Always cleaning.
If the job you have, what is your favorite part of sanitation? Because I remember John Lapolia, Bitter and Esters. I one time he forced me to take the homebrew class. And the minute he started, it was like 2 hours of spraying and sanitation. And I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm never making beer.
Yeah, 90% of brewing is cleaning, man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love our floor cleaner.
Yeah.
Purple Gatorade flavor. We were just giving it a good mopping before you came in.
Yeah, for sure. There's nothing like the smell of chlorine, man. I'll tell you what.
That's good. And Rachel, for you, like, you're in the tasting room. Wow, wonderful glass. What's going to be the program with serving? Because I really feel like everyone talks about, what's going on with craft beer and draft beer. I'm like, listen, it's all in the experience with the consumer. First of all, the beer has to be good. The space has to be nice to drink, and there has to be a nice tasting room staff.
Yeah, so I guess starting with the glassware, we kind of made sure we stuck to glassware that fits the beers we're pouring into it. So right now we're drinking out of our little Kolsch glasses, but we have the Czech style mugs that we'll be using for that. We also are going to be pouring out of Lucre taps, which I was lucky enough. Pink Boots gave me a scholarship to do a class with them, and the actual guys from Lucre came in and were able to make me an official tapster. So looking forward to adding that extra little touch of authenticity and making sure we're serving it right. Doing justice to Adam's liquid.
Nick, you got an all-star crew here. So how did you go about putting together this team? Because that's an important part of your opening.
Yeah, it's been... That was the thing I was the most scared about. It was just because that's who you get. The people is who you're working with is the most important thing, how things are going to turn out. I mean, I don't know if we want to go into how Justin and I met. I will just say that it was a sort of very strange coincidence that we happened to run into each other. And, it was, like Justin and I very much saw things similarly from the get-go. And then we sort of it was just putting out listings on the regular normal job boards, and then just sort of like keeping your antenna tuned to somebody who felt like they were going to be a good fit. And, I'll just mention one thing that stood out for me from Adam, when on Adam's work history, was like, he had chosen to go do...
Said, I don't know from Adam? What?
No, that...
I'm only joking today because I'm here in person and having this great Ellis lager at Eckhart Beer. But.
No, he had put down... He had chosen to go work at Urban Chestnut, right? Yeah. They have a brewery in Germany, and he had chosen to do sort of like what in the culinary industry would be like a stage, just to sort of see those traditional German techniques. And that just jumped out to me as someone who is really committed to it. Yeah.
Did Urban Chestnut make an Ungesplundent?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember having that in New York.
Yeah.
So for me, Urban Chestnut is a great connection. Have you ever had Urban Chestnut? It's like in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So an American brewery making a damn good Ungespunden.
Yeah.
Tell us about that style, because I feel like the styles. I'm excited about styles this year. I feel like why do I want to drink good beer? I want to drink beers like this. But this lager is killer. Helles lager. Tell them what an Ungespunden is, because that used to be Mars. Ungespunden was my go-to on draft. If I wanted a lager, that was what I was going to drink.
Yeah, gotcha. I won't lie to you, man. You're tripping me up here a little bit. I've heard of the style and I have had it a couple times, but I'm actually not super familiar with that style. And it wasn't super prevalent when I was at the Urban Chestnut Brewery, because they were actually just going more of like a kind of curated small style selection there. So I didn't actually really come across that style very often. Yeah, please do, man. Yeah.
Well, not that I know what it is, but I used to speak some German.
Yeah,
so to me, it sounds like an unspunded beer. So
yeah, right.
Open top fermentation.
Yeah, so like that was actually one of the main reasons why I went there, was because they were focusing on open top fermentation, which I hadn't really dealt with, and I really thought was kind of crucial to lager making. So that's why I had reached out and wanted to get out that way, because I feel like it adds a really unique profile to lagers that you don't see very often. Yeah.
You guys keep talking about lagers, and Courtney, Justin, go for it. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, well, I can't speak too much to that one, but I will
We're not
say
doing it here. We did.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's too much drywall dust for us to do open fermentation right now. But I mean,
the
like
myth of lagers and
I mean,
it tastes so good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's, I can speak to why I think ours, taste the way they do, which is a real focus on the ingredients, like Adam said. We're sourcing great continental ingredients. We use whole leaf hops in a lot of our brewing process that come from Germany and Czech. There's some unique varieties that we're using there. Traditional, but also unique. But Nick said it too, of like kind of how our visions aligned, where it was like, man, I love lager, and there's a lot of lager out there, and we're just like trying to make the best damn lager we can.
Well, let's talk about this lager in cans. Like, there's so much talk about the Leucopours and all that, which I'm always excited to drink. But this Helles lager in can, to me, is great. And I don't know if you want to say anything about beers in cans, Courtney.
We can do some tank pours. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy with what's in my glass, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's smart, especially for today's beer consumer. Obviously, convenience over everything. And I think it's a great time for lagers. People kind of want beer flavored beer right now, and when you're making it this exceptionally, I think a can of like really good lager is a win.
Yeah, I mean, this is not supposed to be, and this is a thing I think I would like to emphasize, is like, this is not supposed to be uptight, stuffy beer. This is everyday beer, and there's some challenges to making it really well, but like, this is the idea is for this to be enjoyable at any time and very accessible. And so, I mean, in terms of putting it in cans, there's Justin could probably talk your ear off about canning. Has a lot of experience with that, as does Adam. And it's a tricky process, and basically can only make your beer worse, but you can, it's very possible to put really high quality liquid into cans and keep it in good shape.
And you guys have already launched, so where can I go now and get a can of Eckhart?
Justin, you want to list off some of our...
Well, if you go to www.eckhartbeer.com and scroll down, we have a retailer map. No, but in all seriousness, the script was originally kind of to open the tap room and then kind of ease into distribution. But, you go with the curveballs. And as we're standing here still with things under construction, we were brewing and really, really happy with the product and the test batches. And then we had product. So, we started going to market with it. So there's about 30 odd places right now that currently have it on tap or in can. A lot of the craft and carry locations. I mean, I could pull up the list real quick, but Vinyl Beer has been great to us. Beer Run. Yeah. A lot of great feedback so far.
Courtney, where do you go drink beer these days in New York?
Beer Wax, Beer Witch, Beer Street, South. Those are like my neighborhood spots, but everywhere. Owl Farm, I love. The Gate. I could keep going forever.
Well, those top 5 are great. I love that.
We actually did our first live event at Beer Witch with Krista and the team there, knowing that they would treat our beer well. And then same thing with Beer Wax, just kind of making sure we're at the places that will care about our stuff as much as we do and treat it right. Yeah, lots of opportunities and even more stuff coming up with Beer Week, getting us out there.
Rachel, how do you feel about these beers? I mean, the Helles Lager is great. The Pils. You must be proud.
I'm very excited. I used to be such a heavy IPA drinker, and as the haze craze took over, nothing was quite hitting the cleanness that I was expecting from beers anymore. And good lagers were hard to come by. This is, we're talking 8-10 years ago, and to have just a crushable, drinkable, clean, like pure version of beer just done well is great to see and to have access to constantly for myself. It's really, really nice. I'm excited for more people to realize how good lagers can be.
I'm aging myself when I talk about Ankush Pundit and Bourbon Chestnut. Sorry, but it's a good memory. The memories of those rare lagers that were so good that I still remember them in the context of so much beer in my life. So it's a testament to you guys. I'm going to say cheers. And I think Courtney agrees with me that these are both damn good beers. And how is, I mean, as brewers, servers, how is the Helles Lager different from the Pils? I mean, they taste different, but I don't really know why they're different.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of, again, what's super cool about lager. You have a relatively, in style and look, a very similar looking beer, but actually when you taste and smell, it's very, very different. So trying to get that distinction is very important. So yeah, Helles is, again, kind of mentioned before, very more malt expressive, softer on the mouthfeel, maybe a bit more expressive on the hop as well. And I'd say German Pils is much more drying, kind of bitter on the palate, but like in a very good way. Wants you to kind of come back more and more for drinking. And I'd also say, a nice little light kind of pine resin, earthy hop note there as well, which is what we were going for in our German Pils.
What makes it more? Remember that word Moorish? I know some of the Irish guys say it's a Moorish. That's the quality I want, Moorish. Or even Garrett Oliver years ago would say, when we first made a beer, we wanted to make sure that people wanted more of it. They'd want to drink 2 or 3 or 4. And that's how I feel with your beers. I mean, you can keep putting cans out for me today. It's not like there's some beers, you get a beer, and I'm going to be honest, you might want that one beer, but you can't drink more than one. These you can drink more than one.
That's the idea. I think regardless, and I think one thing that's really interesting when I taste all of our beers, and we'll get into the Czech styles next, and the Czech styles, the Czechs have a word for drinkability, which I won't try and pronounce, you can look it up. I mean, I think it's Pitelnost is what they talk about, which is that drinkability thing.
Does Adam know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he did pretty well there.
And I mean, I'm sure the Germans do too, but I just can't remember. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to, and it's really hard to define it, but it is certainly there, and there's so many factors that go into it. And I just can't I have to give all the credit to Adam for just sort of understanding it sort of intuitively of how to get to that place. But they also have flavor. I mean, they're flavorful. I feel like, even the Helles and the Pils are like different from one another. They sort of look the same in the glass, just they have things in common, but like they're two distinctly different beers.
So then what is the system here? I mean, I saw the brewing area. To me, it's always like, it looks really clean. It's a lot of big tanks.
Yeah.
But just in layman's term, what is it? It's pretty standard setup? I mean...
No, yeah, I'd say far from it, actually, which is pretty cool. All of our equipment was sourced through Crew, and we've had like a really great experience with them. So it's a 10-barrel, 3-vessel kit. all kind of like strategically designed to focus on lager brewing. So the brew house is a mash kettle, a lauter tun, and then a kettle whirlpool combination. But the mash kettle and the lauter tun work really well together. The piping that the crew designed for us and that Justin and Nick helped design as well, does a great job with decoction brewing, which is a big focus in lagers. So kind of making that as easy and user-friendly as possible is kind of actually a game changer when it comes to brewing. And this kit is awesome with that. I can move back and forth between the mash tun and the lauter tun incredibly easy to pull mashes to boil and pull back over. And yeah, I'd say that's definitely really helped define and distinguish our beers for sure.
And at this point now, I mean, based on the beer that I'm drinking, it feels like you know how to use the system. Were there any learning curves that you go through as a brewer?
Yeah, there's always kind of learning curves for sure. Every different brew house has its own quirks. I mean, for the most part, you get the basic concept of brewing. You can kind of step up in the brew house and be like, oh, okay, that valve and that pipework goes there. Fantastic. But yeah, like you always, have a day or two or a couple or a week or whatever of crossover where you're just kind of, getting acquainted with the system, really getting it dialed in. So, yeah.
That's cool. Well, you're talking about German words. I'm going to add a new one, Gemütlichkeit, which to me, I know it's after 5 o'clock. That's a word. It's a funny thing. I studied like 3 years of German in high school, and I know like 2 words. And I've been to Germany, but Gemütlichkeit is this moment of the day when it's kind of like instead of a dinner, it's like you're having a drink and you're having some food. And the only reason I came today, not really, but I heard that your chef is Fred Meyer, who I know as hot dog boyfriend with a great pedigree. So I'm really thrilled about the whole experience here because at this point now I want some food. And to me, a good tasting room has to have something. And sometimes it's the simplest bite. But Gemütlichkeit is like that. It's like you could have a freaking herring. You could have a piece of cheese and bread. It's like being in everything now I feel like I have to compare things to a natural wine bar. It's like natural wine bar. You get a thing of camembert cheese and a piece of salami and a hard baguette. And sometimes that's all you need when you're socializing and eating and drinking. Fred, tell us about you, man, because I knew you're from Dixon's. You've probably been to some of my events. And I want to come here to eat and drink.
Well, yeah. First of all, I'm really excited to be here at Eckhart. I'm the latest edition. I'm the FNG, as it were. But I'm drinking this beer has been really inspirational. Learning from Adam and Justin and Nick about like these processes is really amazing to me. I am a frequent beer drinker, but I really knew nothing of the process until more recently, and I'm still learning a lot. So thank you for your patience with me. I appreciate that. But it's been really exciting too, because when we're talking about the food here, it's exciting to think about like the through line. For me, it's about one, what do I want to be eating while I'm drinking beer, and like in quantities that I like to drink beer, which is an afternoon into the evening kind of situation, but also how can we have a through line from the brewery into the tap room using certain ingredients. I've been experimenting using the trube, the yeast trube, the sediment, and I was lucky enough to get a bag full of malt that I ground and mixed into some bread this weekend to play with. So to really like just kind of have something that connects beyond that wall into this room. But then also the menu is going to, we really wanted to reflect something that goes well with beer, that doesn't just fall into the pitfalls of pizza, wings, heavy food, but like just more thoughtful applications. We're still working a lot on the menu, or doing a lot of research right now, but trying to find those things that when you're drinking this excellent beer, that you're kind of going back and forth, and that you could even come here, hopefully, if you're not a beer drinker, that you would want to have dinner.
Nick, you go, Rachel.
I was just going to say part of what we're focusing on and kind of the culture of drinking lagers is the kind of community aspect of sitting down and being able to share plates with people and, more of a community gathering space than just somewhere you're knocking back a bunch of beers. So I'm excited to see what Fred's kicking out, but a lot of the things will be, intended for a group of people to be sharing together and kind of bring that experience as a cumulative, spot.
Man, how do you go about? I mean, I don't say how you hired him, but I'd like to know that because you've been very. I don't know if it's intentional, but you've got some really good people at this table. How do you
I
go
would hope
about
intentional.
I mean,
the
honestly,
food component, and how do you
I think it's just been the only thing I can attribute it to is like putting vibrations out there and having people tune into them, because Fred found us essentially. We had a bunch of delays, and I had interviewed chefs and then sort of basically had them move on and take other jobs because we weren't ready for them. And we were just, we had a listing up, and, the emails had kind of stopped coming in, and then Fred sort of came in out of the blue. And it was just, you could just tell it was a good connection. So yeah, I wish I could say there was something you do, but it just seems like things have worked out in that way.
The dudes are all wearing flannel shirts, right? Courtney, are they?
Kind of.
Yeah,
Kind of.
Yeah.
Is that part of it?
No, that wasn't intentional. But I think
part of the uniform.
When you're in a place and you're spending a lot of time together, you start to, I don't know, things start to synchronize a little bit. Right?
That's good. Well, like for you, Nick, what is there a certain food item that you'd want, or you're kind of also going with this your staff?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pushing hard on I feel like we talked about this the last time. I've been pushing hard on the roast chicken concept.
That was a year ago.
Yeah. I haven't given up on that. Our vision for the food is that it's supposed to support the beer. The idea is that, people are here primarily, to enjoy the beer, and the food should support that, and go well with it. And that seems like that's a thing that I enjoy cooking. I'm going to make them try it and we'll see if it works.
Well, for me, food and beer go so well together. Everyone's gonna tell me their favorite way. Chicken, how do you want it? I'll tell you mine. Like Chinatown style, you're gonna take a whole small chicken, you're gonna hack it up into 8 pieces and deep fry it. That's my way. Okay. Right. Courtney, how would you want chicken at a brewery?
Ooh, I don't know. I like Korean fried chicken, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm getting hungry. It's Gemütlichkeit time. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, Fred and I were having this conversation the other day, and I got to say, I think Fannie Mae's chicken. Fannie Mae, no. What did I say? I'm gonna get finance chicken.
In this economy, though,
yeah,
you may need to take a loan for.
Oh, down in New Orleans, they shut down for a little bit. The wet batter.
I don't remember.
You mean a fancy place?
No, it was fried chicken.
I know what you're talking
Yeah.
I forgot the name. I forgot the name.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's Nashville, right?
Yeah. Well, anyways, I was gonna say I love fried chicken. That was the point of that stumble, is that I love fried chicken.
Fried chicken's good.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with fried chicken. But I am.
So I got everybody talking.
Of rotisserie chicken, I think is you can brine it. You can do a lot with beer and that sort of thing with rotisserie, and kind of. I always enjoy a good slice of rotisserie.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys, I can say to the listeners, if you want to talk, we only have a few mics. Just grab the mic and talk.
Got it.
Fred's a good laugher too.
Yeah, I mean, I love a whole roasted chicken, so I'm definitely on board with that for sure. I mean, wild card, if we're talking about like beer, like I love chicken salad. Like chicken salad's delicious. I probably eat it too much, to be honest. It's probably not the best way to have chicken. But
it smells really good in the delivery van.
Yeah, well, that's got to be part of the plan for using product. If you have leftover chickens that you've roasted off at the end of the night, you cool them down and you pick the meat and you make chicken salad, the next day. It's got to be part of efficiently using products. So
this is that kind of place where this could happen, but we don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're like Fred said, we're very much in the ideating phase right now. We have a lot of ideas that we want to try, but until the kitchen is ready, we won't really know what's working and how exactly we want to do it. And, you know, I don't know. It's worked so far to just kind of have a general goal and keep thinking about it and keep plugging away. And then eventually all the pieces like fall together.
I got to say real quick, Willie Mays.
That's
what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did it.
All right.
I got close.
Swoop it up. All right. So back to the next beer, because I can talk about food all day. All right. Last thing with your chef. Okay.
Yeah.
I know some young chefs in a little place they've opened, and the idea of using ingredients like, I don't know, something from beer, some fermenting. You got a butternut squash, and you take the seeds and somehow you ferment that into something like a soy sauce. I don't know. But those are the kind of things you're thinking about?
Yeah. I mean, I think using the trube is really interesting ingredient. And then like I said, the malt. And we'll probably do some fermentation. I mean, obviously, you know, sauerkraut and things like kimchi go really well with beer. And you can do so many different things. So there's definitely be some experiments happening.
Anything else you want to say about the food, Nick? Since we're not open yet. And
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be, you know, like a Michelin level place. That's not the idea of the food, but I think we can do just really good, honest food that's done simply, and, you know, as much from scratch as possible. I think that really makes a difference. Just using good ingredients and, you know, being nice to them.
And I'll say it again, Gemütlichkeit. It brings it all together. It's just it's simple food with really good beer or wine. Do you have wine or cider? What else would be in the bar program, Rachel?
Yeah, so we have actually been going through, you know, quite a process and taking advantage of the time that we have here. Going to have a little bit of a wine selection of things that are the same quality that we believe in and that represent kind of the same energy of the brewery. We're going to have some non-alcoholic options in package. You know, we're working our way through just tasting different options and seeing, you know, the best that's out there. So it, you know, stands up next to the rest of our stuff. And, you know, we'll have some little mocktail options, and that sort of thing going on.
Well, that's great. I'm excited to be here. I mean, really, Nick, and a great team you guys have. Courtney, I'm going to put you on the spot. I bet you have a question for everybody.
Yeah. So opening in New York City right now, I think depending on how you look at it, we're kind of in either like the second or third wave maybe of like craft breweries. You know, we've had a little bit of shrinkage and, you know, it's exciting. There's some new places like you guys opening up. I'm just curious, like how you sort of see yourselves like fitting into the New York City beer scene. Cause to me, it's one of the few ways where New York City kind of feels like smaller. Like, it, you know, there's not a ton of breweries. So like a lot of people are kind of like making their own stamp, doing their own thing. Like, how do you feel like you will fit in, bring something unique to the table, maybe collaborate with other breweries?
Yeah. So we, first of all, there's the choice to be a lager, pretty much lager only brewery. We'll make an IPA or, you know, or two for the tap room, but we're not going to try and package it and, you know, sell it that way. Is one way that we wanted. I mean, I wanted to stand out, and I mean, that wasn't why I made the decision. Why I felt like I could move forward with this idea is that it's pretty unique for a brewery to just be doing that. And I probably wouldn't have done it anywhere except for New York because it would be hard to find the audience, a big enough audience anywhere else if you were being that like specific and focused. So there's that. You know, I think really focusing on tap room experience that's more service focused, I think it's become pretty clear that like in New York to survive as a brewery, if you're in New York, you got to be tap room focused. You got to get people in the tap room. So what do you do? Like, how do you do that? And it's, you know, creating the space, creating the food, you know, getting people to want to come and then come back and then stay, is important. So yeah, that's from my perspective, that's the idea.
what does everybody think about the amber?
Love it. So, yeah, why did you pick this as your third beer? You've got, Czech style amber lager.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of goes down the line in terms of what we're trying here. The final one be a Czech dark. So, this is, I know a style that Nick really likes, and we kind of both kind of jived on that. We really dig this style. When I had done a visit to Prague, it wasn't on tap very often, but like you'd find it every once in a while, and it was kind of like this golden nugget where you were just like, oh man, I'm so glad I went to this bar and it was on tap. So we wanted to definitely recreate this style. Another kind of cool thing about the brew house as well is we have the opportunity to use whole leaf hop in a lot of our brews, which I don't think a lot of people are necessarily doing. And I actually think this beer justifies or like really expresses those whole leaf hops in a really special way because of the malt profile. Those two things end up playing really nicely together, and you just get this really great, lovely kind of fresh whole leaf aroma on the nose with this beer that I enjoy.
What does whole leaf hop mean?
So essentially, instead of like pelletizing or putting it into a powder or a different type of hop extract, like this is kind of like, it would be dried and kilned, and that would be its kind of true form unless it was pelletized. So you're dealing with it in its full cone and flower shape.
You basically have a lot more of the plant.
Yeah.
That's when you make pellets out of hops, which is basically, it looks like bunny food or whatever. You get rid of a lot of the parts of the hop that people consider unnecessary.
Yeah.
But when you're using a whole leaf hop, you're using a whole flower, and there's actually really interesting flavor that comes from that. And I think it gives a lot of character to this beer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that extra plant matter really plays well into there. It also actually works as a great kind of extra filter bed as well when we're lautering too. It kind of, multiple uses that we really dig about using kind of whole leaf flower, which is nice.
Courtney, have you ever heard about that before?
Yes.
You can tell me what you think about it, because I'm excited. I like the way it tastes.
Yeah, it's delicious. It feels in line with the more traditional brewing, I think. More of just, that pure hop flavor. It doesn't, I'm not going to hate on anyone's beer, but it's not like candy hops or, you're just getting pure kind of like noble hop characteristics.
And what are those? Because if we're talking like subtle, delicious lagers, to talk about how the hop plays into that is a lot different from, hazy IPAs and things that many people know.
I think it's a little more natural, right? Like literally kind of like floral, a little earthy, a little herby, hints of spices.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it kind of almost goes, like you said, kind of more to that herb and kind of older school. Yeah, just natural plant vegetation versus like, kind of citrus and lemon and orange. Like you're getting those more like herbal and tea-like notes that I think are really, crucial to European styles.
Rachel?
I think people underestimate how hard it is to make a good lager because you aren't using all those sort of extra flavored on the hops and that sort of thing. It's beer in its purest form, I think. And not only to make it, it takes more time in your tanks for starters, which is a risk for a lot of breweries to do. I know, just because it's square footage and taking up an extra tank. We make sure we take the time with it to definitely, make sure they're coming out as they should be. But the amber, I think, is my favorite out of the ones that we do currently.
It's definitely been a runaway hit. Like that, I got a lot of like feedback that's their favorite. The amber is their favorite, which as something that doesn't really, from what I can tell, is not really a style that is all that prevalent in like actually in the Czech Republic. Like that's interesting to me.
I don't know. I love amber beers, especially the lager. Well, why should people like it? Why should they taste it? Because I could drink that all day.
I'll just let Adam and Justin talk a little bit more about like the nuances of it. But for me, the thing about Czech beers that I experienced when I was in the Czech Republic is that like how much character they actually have for something that lager people consider it a very sort of restrained, subtle thing. But the beers I had there and what I wanted to try and recreate here was like they really have a lot of interesting like bold flavors to them, even though they're very cleanly fermented. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Adam's really good at describing flavors. And so I think it'd be interesting to hear his thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of our goal with these Czech style beers. And after Nick had kind of expressed that after he came back from his trip, like, the Helles and Pils are expressive in their own rights, but yeah, I'd say there is this kind of more yeast and esterification in these beers that you aren't getting as much as in the Pils or the Helles, because it's colder fermented and a bit more restrained. And I think that's what's really just popping with these beers, the Czech Amber and the Czech Dark. There's just this extra yeast is just playing a bigger factor in these beers in a really nice way, and really expressing those caramelly and kind of really nice dried fruit, fig, date profile on this amber that, yeah, I think the dried fruit expression on this beer is what really draws me to it quite a bit.
So it's not just the color, there's a difference in how you make it.
Absolutely, yeah. Different fermentation temperatures, kind of, yeah, manipulating that yeast to drive off a bit more kind of expression than we would on the Pils or the Helles for sure.
Great. Rachel?
I don't know. I think it's really impressive. And again, when people think of lagers, there's kind of with the tap room, with the customers, you see beers that look alike, and a lot of people don't know the difference between a Helles versus a Pilsner, and the fact that we can stand them right next to each other and even on a flight board, and you'll be able to tell the difference between them just because of the subtle nuances of how Adam's brewing them.
Justin?
Yeah, I mean, like Adam said about the yeast, I think there's a lot of factors at play that kind of come full circle. And to go back to like, even with the equipment and everything, where like we thoughtfully designed, like, all right, we want to be able to get these characteristics, which means we need to be able to work with these ingredients between in the brew house and in the cellar. And it's just that kind of like extra attention to detail. And, Adam's kind of manipulation of it all that kind of drives it home.
Courtney?
I actually have a question, if that's okay, because I think it's something Rachel brought up about the consumer side of this. I'm kind of curious what your planned approach is. I mean, you haven't opened yet, so I know you're going to see how this goes when people start coming in. But what your planned approach is in terms of like explaining the difference between these styles to some people, like with the Lucre taps, are you going to do the 3 different Czech pours and sort of, communicate to people how that manipulates flavor?
Absolutely. There's going to be a large, education almost component of this. And, hopefully, as Nick has done, getting the right crew in place that can explain those things to people in a way that they understand, and just kind of letting people try it for themselves next to other things. Even down to the Lucre pours, some people are still very opposed to having head on their beer, and being able to let them know that there's a very big difference between wet foam and dry foam, and there is a reason why we pour it the way we do, and it changes the actual experience of drinking the beer.
It's a great question. Courtney, you keep asking questions because I respect you a lot as a writer, and I'm really thrilled to get a chance to be here with you today, and I thought it would be fun to come taste with you, so thank you.
Thank you. This is great. Well, I then have another consumer-ish kind of question, and, another question that is probably too soon to be asking. Do you have any plans on, like, maybe directions that you want to take in terms of events? Like, obviously not specifics, but just, like, these are the kinds of things we want to do in order to be, like, a sort of, like, community gathering place?
It's something I believe full-heartedly in, and kind of, for one, in bringing in the community into your tap room or your business, and making sure you're giving the respect to the area that you're in, and taking up that square footage, down to even the people that we had make our merchandise is a local gentleman named EK that is a known graffiti artist in the area. But doing things with even him doing like a paint and sip, but with a little bit more of a local Brooklyn taste on things like that. Of course, you can't not do trivia and that sort of thing, But I'm really excited about getting the mezzanine part open and using that as almost, we've kind of kicked around the idea of like a library sort of component, so people can kind of pick their own adventure. But yeah, we'll be doing some live music and stuff too. And just kind of, a lot of it will be also what the customers tell us they want. It's kind of going with the flow and listening to those people that are in the area and what they want to see.
Now I'm going to go back with the customers. If you were, whether it was Europe or somewhere else, think of a place you really like to drink beer in. I mean, the beer is important, but I'm thinking of some old place on 34th Street in Manhattan, and I can't even think of the name anymore. But none of you will remember that either. Gingerman. And it was huge and a little too big for me, but there was something about it that I enjoyed drinking beer there. It was bigger than the places I like. I also really like the old Spite and Dival because of the intimacy. So you guys, we'll go around the room. Start with Nick. Somewhere you like to drink beer besides Jimmy's number 43.
Oh man, that's going to be my
That was pretty special. And I'll give you, that also had a huge European influence and went back to the 80s. And it was something like Ufleku in Prague meets a Ukrainian Belgian basement.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, you took my answer, so I'm gonna have to let someone else answer first while I think about that.
Well, I guess just recently leaving Amsterdam, there's a brown bar there called Cafe Chris, and they had some of the freshest Amstel on tap there, and you could just grab a bench outside in the sun on a summer day and just suck down a couple Amstels and with a couple buddies. And yeah, it was my happy place for a while. I loved drinking beer at that bar. It's just all about the environment and the people around you, for sure.
I am a fan of brewery drinking a lot, but as far as bars go, there's a great spot in Toronto actually called the Imperial that did a really good way of separating their spaces downstairs and upstairs in a little outside area. And kind of what I look forward to here too is, the kind of different compartments that you can hang out in. But when I go to just drink regularly around my neighborhood, there's a great little spot called Milo's or Milo's, depending on who you ask, that has arcade pinball machines and stuff and a solid beer list for what looks like a hole in the wall almost. But it's just like a nice vibe there. The clientele has a lot to do with it too, of who it attracts. So those are kind of my go-to.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, other than my couch, I would say it's like, similarly to Adam and Rachel, both like, I really love drinking in breweries. I think it's a way different experience and you're getting fresher beer and it's just very interesting to kind of be a part of that and be in the space. And especially if you can see what's going on, but also similar to Adam, like my wife is from Germany and I've spent a lot of time overseas and I like drinking outside. It's really nice walking down the street. We can't do that here necessarily. But just, it's a social thing where it's like, yeah, you're just casually having a beer out in the sun. Yeah.
Cool. Listen, you guys, Courtney, you're taking my mic. You guys talk about this next beer. I'll be right back. I have to get a surprise for everybody.
All right. How's everyone feeling about this beer? I'm just pretending to be host.
So yeah, this is the Czech Dark that we have.
I think it's amazing. And I can already just imagine having it as like a schnit pour. Getting excited about that. It's like you're getting the flavors of that. It's not all the way roasty. It's not too intense, but like it definitely makes a case for itself as different from the lighter beers.
Yeah, nice. Love to hear that. Honestly, yeah, that was the main intention, really. So, this is one of my favorite styles. And yeah, it's that kind of balance of, it's still a lager. You want it to drink light and clean, like a normal lager would or a Pils, but obviously have these awesome kind of subtle in the background, roasty, chocolatey notes. I always get like a little bit of like pretzel dough-iness on it as well that I really enjoy. But yeah, to just not overpower you with that roast and kind of a bit of astringency that you sometimes see, or just with porters and stouts in general. You still want it to be in that lager zone. And that's why, I really like this style.
I think it's like super accessible for someone that's maybe like, I think a diehard fan of this style would be into it, but it's also like if it's someone's first time having it, they wouldn't like confuse it with like a porter or a stout or,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I love the leanness of it. It's also one of my favorites too, where it's even some dark lagers too, where you get that kind of chewiness. And I think especially, the way Adam brews it, like there's this time where it's not in the zone of lager, which we actually joke about and love in the mash process, where you're like, whoa, I'm getting these black IPA aromas.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
some of the malts and what's going
whole
on.
Leaf, come together for sure.
Yeah. But so the aromas in the brew process, and then to get the flavors in the finished product in such a lean, drinkable beer that you can go back to, I love it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of preconceptions when people think about dark beer, and I'm a self-admitted not a huge fan of dark beers in general, and so I was like, well, I'm just going to be resigned to maybe not being one of my ones that I like, but it hits all the right notes for me. And like they said, it's just drinkability across the board.
Courtney, have you had a lot of the black lagers?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite styles, actually.
Can we talk about this style? Because I remember like the Schwarz beers, black lagers from Germany, but with the Czech style, why has that become like cool? I mean, it is cool.
Yeah, for sure. Fair question. I honestly, I'd kind of chalk it up to people traveling, honestly, a bit more as of late, kind of coming out of COVID a bit. I feel like, travel bug has kind of jumped back in. A lot of people are getting back to Europe, and I think it's just a style that's been around for a really long time, but all of a sudden the beer drinker is kind of going abroad and seeing it and getting pumped about it and then coming back. And then now craft breweries here are doing it and making it accessible for the U.S. beer drinker here, which is pretty cool. It's really exciting. Honestly, you go to a lot of craft beer bars right now, especially in the wintertime, and you see the style on pretty darn often, which wasn't really a thing, 10 years ago or whatever. So,
last year I got turned on to Hefeweizen, which was one of my favorite styles in like 2005. And I had it from an old brewery in New Jersey, Ramstein. And I was like, this is the beer for summer. And no one else did it. This year, I'm going to say, I don't want to jinx you guys, but I would say the beer for this year should be Eckhart Helles Lager, because that one popped. But for me, the beer for this year should be Eckhart Beer Company Czech Style Amber Lager. Because whenever I have an amber or a porter, there's something about it. And I love the finish on the black, but I feel like amber for me is, we can drink more amber.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Am I allowed back?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I'm like, oh, it's our strongest beer, and it's, what is it again? 4.7. Somehow feels very strong compared to all the other ones that are,
Well, it is funny. It's like, people always thought Guinness was so strong. And then it's like, what the Irish dry stout, what is that? 3.5% beer? It's something like that, really.
Yeah.
But it's the flavor profile, but there's a perception that that's a strong beer, or that dark beers are stronger.
Yeah.
Beer.
I think there's a misconception that maybe comes from Guinness, just given its popularity, where the chewiness of it, you're like, oh, it's so rich and big in body that it's going to also be really strong, when in reality it's actually not at all, and that's why you can drink a million of them. Yeah.
Do you think there'll be any programs like that, for talking about styles of beer with customers, or besides, because you want to do it, the whole thing about any place, if you're busy, all the things you want to do you can't do. You remember 15 years ago, people wanted to do flights, but you got busy on a Friday night and your staff's like, no flights.
And so that's a fun conversation that we talk about on often. And it's a love-hate relationship with flights, for sure. But again, I feel like almost a necessary evil. And if you have the right staff, which again, hopefully you get the right crew in here, you learn how to talk to those people and keep the line moving. But you want to, if people are curious, you want to let them be curious and try the variety. And again, I think it's a lot where people will just be interested in having 4 lagers next to each other to be able to compare them directly instead of pausing in between a full pint sort of thing. But I definitely hope to be doing some more educational sort of events as well, where, we talk about hops and do kind of just a session of beer lovers that can learn about what differentiates these things.
I think the hard part is there's some people who want to ask a million questions and want all that information. And there's some people who just want to sit there and enjoy their beer. And you can't, you need, the staff needs to understand, like, you got to read people. Like, that's what service is about. You're reading who your guests are and what they want. And you sort of need to be equipped to be able to do the spiel if they want to hear that, or if they just want to be left alone and they don't want to have things explained to them. I think one of the things that a lot of places, restaurants, I see this a lot in certain types of fine dining restaurants, where they feel obligated to sort of explain everything to you as part of the show. And that's really nice if you want to know, but sometimes it's just sort of done. You can tell they're not really paying attention to what you actually want. So yeah, I mean, that's why it's tricky. It's not just a one size fits all thing. So we'll definitely offer that, that we need the staff to understand and be able to answer those questions, or say, I don't know. And they'll go ask somebody, but also, let the guests sort of guide the experience.
We're going to be a new space, and there'll be people who haven't had our beer out in the wild yet. So, who are we to deny them? Basically let them try at their own pace. And if they have questions, the staff will have a pretty thorough training, including even a day with Adam to just be able to speak on things properly, to make sure, we're telling people what they need to know.
I have a question that's just for selfish reasons. Do you have any plans to do smoked beers?
Love that.
Can we?
Well, we already have.
Can we access? Do we have any access to it? Probably not.
Yeah.
We have
It's
one.
all in keg.
Yeah.
So yes, to that question, yeah, we already actually brewed our first smoked beer a couple months ago. So it's actually a rye Rauk beer. So kind of made our own little riff on a smoked beer. I really like rye malt, and I just thought it'd be kind of a cool combo with some smoked beechwood malt, and then actually a touch of chocolate rye as well. But it's a pretty light colored beer, I'd say, not even amber, kind of almost golden to orange. But yeah, we have that in keg right now. So that's available. We have a couple of venues that have it on tap at the moment. But so yes, that was our first smoked beer.
That's great news.
Yeah.
And sounds good for like food pairing possibilities in the future to have a smoked beer on.
Yes,
And then,
for sure.
Courtney, when you asked that question, what is your ideal smoked beer?
I like it pretty aggressively smoky, which is definitely polarizing. But I think, as a brewery experiments, like maybe you have something that it's a whisper of smoke, and then maybe you have something that's full on bacon at a campfire, and kind of like gauge how people react, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we kind of wanted to be a bit tempered on this one. Like, it's definitely 100% there, and we really like the smoke, but wanted to kind of have it be more approachable with the rye kind of combo. But yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. Like, I do love a really smoky beer. So
If you're doing a subtle beer, like, would you play off the smoke as another flavor, like, versus the hops? Or how do you treat the smoke, flavor? I don't know. I just know I've had some subtle lagers that have a little smoke, and I'm like, oh, you could use smoke instead of too many hops. I don't know.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, it's kind of tough. Like, are you saying, like, were you actually drinking a smoked beer? You're saying, like, sometimes in lagers you come across a smoke.
No, beers that have been, like, I think it was Threes had Short Fuse.
Okay.
A number of years back, and there was like a hint of, I don't know if it was a Pilsner or a Pale Ale, just had a hint of smoke. And I was like, oh, it made me, or like the Schlenkler or the Helles that's just run through, say they have to run through the machinery, picks it up. And then I'm like, well, does that mean you could use less hops? Well, how does it play? Or Nick, he's ready for it.
Well, I mean,
and these are subtle things, but they're cool. And it's
of course, yeah.
When they say, like, I love the bacon stuff and Schlenkler and stuff, but, I feel like you read about old styles and there's like, dandelion, there's different bitterings, and can smoke be used in a subtle way? Maybe someone wouldn't even know it's in there.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about it, but Adam can answer this too, because he's a very good taster. That's Like one of the reasons like his beers are so good is because he tastes really well. But like, yeah, I think it's identifying what the smoke does as a flavor component. So like for me, like smoke creates sort of an astringency among, in addition to having that aroma, right? It has a sort of certain mouthfeel and a character to it. So if you're going to do that, then you need to dial back other things that might also have that effect so that it's balanced, right? And I think one of the things that's really interesting about the rye route beer is that, and then it's also what else can go along with that. So like the rye character, which is like an earthy thing that sort of supports the smoke, but it doesn't get in the way. And then we use whole hops in that one too. And there's like kind of a pretty like forward, like herbal hop aroma that also just like fits into the whole picture. So yeah, you gotta, that's, I guess from a designing a beer standpoint, you got to figure out like, if you're going to do a lot of roast malt or something, that's going to do something, and you got to back off the bitterness because it's going to read as burnt otherwise, and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely with smoked beers. I mean, you want to have hops be present in there, but smoke is kind of the forefront expression in that style. So as Nick is saying, balance is crucial. Like you really want to have hop and smoke combo aligned there. And yeah, so I'd say most smoked beers wouldn't be heavily hopped most of the time. Yeah.
Right. I keep looking at Rachel because I'm like, I'm so impressed with your crew, Nick. And I think about Pink Boots and just the quality of the people in this room. And just going to make a cheers to you guys. This is one of the nicest days I've had in a while, drinking beer with people.
Very bad luck. Very bad luck.
Yeah. And so you may not know there's an experimental recording of a new system, and Heritage Radio Network is going full steam ahead. And I'm just thrilled that I'm here with multiple mics out in the field. Just last week, I was using one mic. And I was actually who's ever been to Deep Ellum in Boston? Oh, yeah. Old school in Austin.
Absolutely legendary, yeah.
And they closed, but they reopened just outside of Boston.
Very nice, yeah.
I was there last week.
Oh,
and
cool.
we were talking cask ales, which is kind of neat. That's a live episode now.
Yeah, very fun.
And but again, it so much of good beer right now to me is the place and the people making it and working on it, because you can make a good beer and there's people that like it. And like anything, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants, whether it's food or drink, right? I mean, let's just finish with that. It's that there's certain people like certain things, but if you're making something good, I'm coming, right? So we'll finish off. This is the end of the conversation. We're out here, okay? And I'm going to give my mic to Courtney because she's so good.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a balance where, we do what we do, and we're going to do it well, and we're, deliberately choosing not to do too much so that we can focus on like we say, like narrow but deep, just like focus on improving the things and perfecting them as best we can. And, I think we can offer something for anyone. I mean, sure, you can always find someone who's not going to be happy no matter what you do, but you can't worry about that. We'll do.
We don't worry about those people.
Yeah.
I'm into the 95% of people that actually like these things.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Really appreciate you having us on. Yeah, it's always really fun to kind of discuss beer, and I'm glad we kind of got to go through the full range here and kind of have your guys take an opinion on it. So
it was Nick first and Adam now.
It's Rachel. No, I'm just excited for more people to be able to taste what can happen when you just combine the right people and the right ingredients together. I am stoked to introduce it to the city.
Yeah, it's Justin signing off. I couldn't agree more with everyone. Yeah, I mean, this is just the beginning, and this has been a long process thus far. So to think about, where we'll be in the amount of time we've spent already from now, like that's what I'm excited about. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say I'm really excited for you guys. I think your vision of really focusing on the consumer or the customer, the guests, the family member, the community members experience is going to be really great for you. The beer's fantastic, but just, acknowledging that you have to also create like a warm, welcoming space on top of that, like I think is totally the move, both in terms of where the industry is today and just in terms of like you will be part of a business that you will love, which is cool.
Fred,
All right. Yeah, I mean, I have to.
one bite, bro.
Second,
I'm hungry. What would you make right now?
right now.
A little one pot dish, something
I
quick.
think drinking these beers makes me want to have anchovies and potato chips.
I'll take it.
And that's what I love about these. I feel like these beers, like having tasted these, are like very close to a platonic ideal of what I would want out of these.
And for you,
I'm not.
You're new to the group. You just came in.
No, but I really believe it. Like, this has really been exciting to be a part of this. I'm very proud.
So Fred's your target customer.
Yeah,
A chef, a guy in the industry. Yeah. He likes beer, but he hasn't had beer this good in a long time.
Yeah, I think it's been said how hard it is to find these really good lagers, and this is just really awesome to be part of this, and then hopefully to match that with what we do in the kitchen.
And you guys are doing a great job. I want to say, for me to come out these days and these times, for me to come out with a friend or two, be able to sit, have some simple bites to go with these kind of lagers, I feel like it's good for me. You guys can't say as licensed people that beer is good for you. But I'll tell you this, when I traveled all day today, I was on a train, I took the subway, and all I wanted was a Helles Lager from Eckhart. And I feel great now. So thank you guys so much. Everybody, I got Nick, Adam, Rachel, Justin, Courtney, and Fred. Thanks so much for joining me here. Heritage Radio Network. Big shout out to Gabe, our engineer. Thanks for coming out, setting us up on our new remote device. Watch out, America. We'll be out there. We can go on the road now, and we're going to be with you on Beer Sessions Radio. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Woo!
Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
And Courtney.
Nice.